Hi, I'm someone elusive Fangirl, and today I'm here to react to episode 9 of Scumbag System, the penultimate episode. We're really close to the end of the series. I know some of you out there will have watched this last episode because of VIP access. Last week we finally got the long-awaited hug as Shen Qingqiu said to Luo Binghe that he could move in to a room which is adjacent to his own, so he can live closer to his master rather than living in the woodshed. So that was extremely cute. We also had a whole montage of just soft moments between Luo Binghe and Shen Qingqiu, as well as a little bit of pity for Mingfan, who is super devoted to Shen Qingqiu, but just isn't quite Luo Binghe, so isn't getting the same attention as his shidi. Last week we also had Shen Yuan having to come up with some really good speeches to try and tell Luo Binghe that just because someone is a member of the demon clan doesn't mean they're necessarily evil and deserve to be killed, because, as he said, there are people who kill demons and there are demons who kill people. It doesn't mean that one clan is inherently evil, it depends on the people. So you can be a demon, but that doesn't necessarily state you are good or evil. It is who you are that dictates that. Which is exactly what Luo Binghe really needed to hear, because he of course was worried about how his shizun will react when he finds out that Luo Binghe is part demon. So that obviously would have set aside quite a lot of his worries about having to eventually reveal himself to his shizun. So now Luo Binghe is even stronger. He's been taught how to control his demon side and how to use it by Mengmo, and now we'll probably get to see some of that power in the God Alliance Congress, which, if I remember correctly, Mingfan already got eliminated from. He charged in wanting to prove himself and immediately was eliminated, to Shen Qingqiu's embarrassment. He had to hide behind his fan. We also had quite an amusing moment on the carriage ride over, where firstly I noted how relaxed Shen Yuan was playing Shen Qingqiu. He really was relaxed into the role. He wasn't putting on an act most of the time. He was actually just acting as he would like to act, because he has changed Shen Qingqiu's character enough that it is natural for him to act like Shen Yuan. And we had a moment where he showed some interest in the most beautiful disciple. I've forgotten her name. Was it Luo Mingfan? I don't think that's right. And so obviously Luo Binghe had to go and see what she was like, considering she'd managed to get his attention. And because Shen Qingqiu saw Luo Binghe with her, he obviously thought that, Luo Binghe was putting on moves and was winning her over into his harem, because he hasn't really started to build it yet. He's got some admirers, but he hasn't been actively doing anything. Otherwise, I'm just excited to start this episode and see what happens during this congress, and maybe see some more of the new character whose name I've forgotten, the one in the golden robes, who helped Luo Binghe at the end of the last episode, and they kind of nodded at each other in acknowledgement, and see what he's like. As usual, if you wish to discuss something which would be a spoiler for anyone who has only been watching the Donghua and up to episode 9, not including the last episode, then please put spoilers at the start of your comments so that people who haven't read the novel can avoid them. Otherwise, I think that's it. So, let's get to it. From the opening. Liu Mingyan. Gong Yixiao. Is that the golden robed one? Gong Yixiao. Everyone's gonna vote for Gong Yixiao except from Shen Qingqiu. Place first. He must be so confused. Such confidence. Such a good shizun. That everyone's following him now. He's just practicing being able to protect his most important person. I love getting to see his inner thoughts. Then just stay behind. He does not. Oh. Aww. People just want to gather around him. Yes. He's not acting fast. He's only thinking about making sure to live up to your expectations. Oh, look at that smirk. Nah. Oh my god. Oh my god, the way they're walking to the water. Ugh, give me water. Oh my gosh, the little, like, almost ear tuck. She's acting very cute. She's actually quite sweet. If I didn't ship people, I might ship her with him, but if I didn't ship other people with Luo Binghe, I do ship people. But obviously there's only one person I care about seeing with Luo Binghe. It would be great to see her actually be able to fight well, because she was... I mean, it was a nice dance and everything, but it was a little bit embarrassing how suddenly she was defeated in the match against the demons. Such children climbing on top of it. Yeah, but then you don't earn points. Ew. Gong Yizhao? He's powerful. Nice fireworks. Wow, that is a little excessive for a flare. That design looks better than the other monsters that were there. Moon-devouring python. Nice dodge. Very nicely done. I'm enjoying her actually being effective in her techniques, considering she is meant to be the head disciple of her peak. I'm pretty sure. No, you see, this is why it needs to be more specific than just fireworks. It needs to be like an actual obvious thing which everyone knows as a flare, not just fireworks. Bye-bye. Ooh. I'm sorry, I'm having to pause quite a bit because my internet connection has decided to suddenly go down a bit. But oh my gosh, where I've paused is just like really good showcase of what ridiculous detail the animators have managed to go to for these models. Because this is the two girls and you can just see the materials, like you can see the difference between the leather and also the kind of silken material of the robes, and the wrinkles on the hands, especially on the knuckles and the nails, just like so much detail which you wouldn't get to see except from in these really close-up shots. And these are characters who they're named characters, but they're not main characters. So if they'd managed to put all this detail into all of them, if they had the budget to do that, this show would have been stunning. It would have been amazing. I'm really interested to see how season 2 will look. I wonder if they'll be able to put more money in towards the other models. I don't know too much about what's going to happen with season 2. But I'm pretty sure that the same voice actors are staying, which is such a relief because they're doing such a great job. So I'm interested to see how animation will change, if anything. It's now really a time to be caught up in how amazing he is. I mean, always is. Another scene from the opening. And another scene from the opening. They need to go inside the barrier. There we go. It's all coming to a head. Oh gosh, I do and don't want to watch next episode because I'm gonna have to wait after next episode. I'm quite glad actually I'm a week behind because I do at least get another week before season 1 is over for me. I really loved the scene with Shen Qingqiu betting on Luo Binghe whilst everyone else is betting on Gong Yizhao. I'm pretty sure is his name. Who's the favourite to win, obviously. And I love the fact that he's betting on someone who is basically the underdog because no one really knows much about him. He's become slightly more famous inside his own peak, but actually amongst all the clans and the different sects, he's not very well known still because he's still a very young disciple and hasn't had much of a chance to show off his skills yet in front of others. I also really loved how Yue, the shizun to Shen Qingqiu, was completely fine covering the 5,000 soul stones or spirit stones, whatever they call them, in case he lost. I also love getting to see Luo Binghe's actual mindset because everyone's just like, he's so kind and to everyone and he's looking after all of us and he's just kind of like, who are these spoilt disciples that they can't even handle a day of walking? He didn't also take into account that not only is he a probably slightly stronger cultivator than, actually no, he is a stronger cultivator than them now, but he went through so much hardship and so much physical labour that he is just generally stronger than all of them physically. But I love the fact that he doesn't go easier on the girls or anything. He's just looking at the group as a whole, just kind of like, really? You can't handle just this much? We're not even fighting stuff. I'm protecting you guys. Like, not that intensely, but he's kind of like, you know, this is not too hard, guys. You're struggling with this. Wow, you must have been pampered. You mustn't have had any kind of hardships during your training. And again, Shen Qingqiu is just convinced that he's building up his harem when literally Luo Binghe, all he's thinking about is firstly how he's being held back from like doing better in this Congress, and also just how he wants to please his shizun, like, and make him proud. Hello. I also did enjoy seeing the prettiest member of that sect actually got to show off the fact that she does have skills, because we saw in the dance that, you know, she obviously has moves, but because it was a dance kind of battle, we didn't really get to see her properly using them. So it was nice to see her like fending off the needles and stuff with her van braces and stuff like that. What I think is quite funny is the show has obviously aged up the look and I think the technical age of most of the disciples, because during these kind of competitions they would probably be about somewhere between 15 and maybe 19 or 20, I can't remember. But because we aged up Luo Binghe, we aged up all the other disciples. So, but they haven't really changed their characteristics, so they're all kind of acting like children, despite the fact that they're meant to be a little bit older and kind of closer to adulthood now. So I find that quite funny, like the fact they're climbing all over the corpse. Like, they didn't even bring it down, but they were still climbing all over it and stuff like that. That kind of stuff just made me laugh a little bit. I also quite liked Liu Chinga's like small lines in this. He only had a couple, but like really good at getting across his character, just like little quick remarks. Just, I really enjoy that when a show doesn't need to focus on a character, but what little interactions they have with other characters just show off their characteristics so well. Like, he was just saying to him, you know, if you lose, don't borrow from me. I'm not lending you anything. I'm not helping you out from this. It just like that kind of remark in the background, and it's just like a couple of seconds, but it not only makes it feel like it's slightly more realistic, like they're not just focusing on certain characters because of the story, like the characters that are there are gonna act as they would act and react to things, but it just, I don't know, it gives more body to the scenes when background characters make comments, or it's always an interesting thing in anime as well when you have background characters chatting. It's a little less obvious when you're listening to something in sub, because if you don't know the language, you're not really paying too much attention to what they're saying. In some shows, though, they do have it loud enough that you can hear what they're saying, and people will sub the background characters what they're saying, because you would actually be able to understand if you knew the language. So it's always interesting to see kind of what they're talking about, because normally there'll be some significance in it, and you can learn a couple of things. Might not be vitally important, but they're interesting things you might learn from listening to what they're saying. Quite a good example of this is in Tiangong Sifu, when we had the telepathic array, or the telepathic matrix, and we had all the other gods commenting on Xie and making comments on like what he's done in the past, kind of what he's known for, and it's great because it's exposition without it just being shoved in our faces. We're not just getting a narrator telling it to us. We're absorbing it from listening to other people in the backgrounds, which is something that is quite funny, because in most of the Shen Qingqiu novels I've seen, one really big way of getting the information which the characters need to know about a new mission or to learn about a character is just from overhearing gossip from other characters. So it's quite fun that actually, when it's actually used so that we experience the same thing, like you only pick up stuff if you're not only focusing on your main characters but listening out to the background characters as well. But anyway, that doesn't have much to do with this, but I enjoy how a scene feels more fleshed out when background characters are actually chatting. Like, we did have a little bit of this when the head of the Chanyi temple, or whatever the temple was discussing the fact that if his disciple didn't make it into the top 10, then he'd have to expel him or banish him or whatever, or at least punish him. I can't remember. He said something about the fact that if he did make it to top 10, he was going to do something quite drastic as a punishment, because he'd have been embarrassed. But yeah, I enjoyed this episode. The monsters, again, weren't great. The python looked quite good. The moon-eating python, or moon-swallowing python, whichever it was called, that one looked pretty good. And the one that came out of the water looked interesting. Not the best animation, also not the best fight animation from Luo Binghe as well. Like, interesting effects, but nowhere near as good as his fights against the Demon Clan, including when he was cutting open its neck. That kind of looked a little bit... It looked fine, just it wasn't the same quality. But I did enjoy the quality for Mingyan's dodging and like her freezing in the slow-mo shot of her in the air dodging the needles, the poison needles. But otherwise, I think that's it. I am both looking forward to and dreading watching the last episode. We all know what scene's coming up, so I'm guessing that's going to be pretty much the end of the episode. Probably the last couple of minutes of the episode is that scene. Maybe it would be quite cool if we could just end with that scene, or maybe have a small after-credit scene, but pretty much just ending on that moment where he's falling off the cliff. Because it would be quite literally a cliffhanger scene. I would feel bad for the people who haven't read the novel, being left with that and waiting for the next season, which I would suggest, as I always do when it comes to kind of either anime or donghua, I would suggest watching the animated version all the way through before going back and reading the novel, just because I find it better when you see the animated, be surprised by animated things, and then when you read the novel you get more information or extra scenes and stuff, and so it means you get more from it. It's not just like you're going and repeating all of this. Like, there's quite a few changes that have been made in the animation, which means that reading the novel gives you enough to be entertained by the new stuff. So yeah, I do suggest that if you want to read a bit of the novel, then maybe read up to the scene which we end on, but don't continue onwards, because it'll be nice to be surprised by the animation and see how the animation does it first. But I think that's it. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and I'll hope you'll join me again next week for my reaction to the final episode of season 1. Bye bye!